Hello everyone, hello. My name is Tatiana. I'm Ukrainian, and this video is translated into English using artificial intelligence, so it's easier and more comfortable for you to watch and understand. I hope this video will be useful, and maybe it will help or inspire you in your own creative projects. Today I want to share how I age paper using tea, and what materials I like to use for this process. For tea staining, I use regular tea. Any tea you have at home will work. I personally like the color that tea gives, and I usually work with plain white A4 paper. I use different methods to age the paper. But for me, it's not really about making it look old. It's more about adding a bit of character. A worn, used, slightly crumpled look. I don't always make paper exactly like this, but I really like when some areas stay white, mixed with tea stains and soft marks. That contrast is what I enjoy the most. In this video, I show you the tools I use. One of my favorites is a simple sponge. You can buy something similar on Temu, but honestly, any sponge you already have at home will work just fine. I also like to use different cups, glasses, and various objects to create interesting marks. For the color to absorb well, it's important to leave them on the paper for a little while. One of my favorite techniques is using stencils. It's also the most challenging one because the stencil needs to stay on the paper long enough for the surface to dry at least slightly. That's when the pattern becomes more interesting. So I use stencils as much as possible, along with anything I have nearby, cups, sponges, random objects. I really love the textures this creates on the paper. You can also fully submerge the paper. If you brew stronger tea and pour it into a large bowl, you can dip the sheets completely. This gives the paper an even, creamy color. I personally don't use this method very often, because I prefer lighter, more natural effects. I'm just showing you different options. You don't have to do it exactly the way I do. You can also use sprays and fill them with tea, but I don't really like this method. I'm not very neat with sprays, and I usually end up with tea everywhere, which means more cleaning afterward. Under the paper, I always place a waterproof mat so I don't stain my table. Use anything waterproof you have at home. If you don't have much time or don't want to work on each sheet individually, you can stack about 10 sheets together and dip just the edges into tea. This creates a very nice tea-colored edge effect. You don't have to use only tea. You can also use coffee or diluted acrylic paints in different colors. The color just needs to be strong enough to show on the paper. So feel free to experiment, mix colors, try different techniques, and create paper that feels right for you. All of this can be used for junk journals, notebooks, inserts, or creative projects. If you're not very patient, just like me, you can use any kind of hair dryer to speed things up. I personally have a heat tool for embossing, but a regular hair dryer works perfectly fine as well. You can simply dry the sheets one by one if you don't want to wait too long. In fact, you can also just place each sheet flat on the table and let them air dry naturally. This way, the paper will dry completely within a day. If you want an even faster option, and the weather is warm and sunny, you can place the sheets outside. They dry surprisingly fast in fresh air. So now we simply let our papers dry and continue from there. So our paper sheets are now completely dry, and the only thing left to do is to flatten them. I want to gently remind you, please do not iron the paper while it's still wet. This can damage your iron, and wet paper can easily curl or deform. Always let the sheets dry fully first. Once they are completely dry, you can safely iron them if needed. Of course, you don't have to iron the paper at all. It really depends on the project you're creating and the look you want to achieve. Here, I'm showing you the final result. How the paper looks after drying, and all those soft circles and marks I love so much. I really enjoy the transition from clean white areas to warm tea-stained tones. This is exactly the effect I like, and this is how I enjoy working with paper. Feel free to create in your own way. Try different techniques, experiment, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. This is creativity, and it's always something beautiful. I wish you lots of creative inspiration. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day.